So thanks for sending me these. Today I want to look at focus in on how the wrist angles and the wrists and the shaft plane and the arms kind of work um, differently to different shots, differently to different releases, different trajectories. Um, and I'm going to use Alex Norn here as sort of a way to look at this a little differently. Um, but obviously, I mean, your golf swing's phenomenal. And I wouldn't say anything is wrong with your current golf swing. It just produces certain misses and certain trajectories. Um, so as we move the ball around and hit different shots, obviously the look of it on camera is going to change as well. Um, so in terms of flattening the shaft plane, there's a lot of talk about that these days. And where do we really want to flatten the shaft plane? Because everyone seems to be focusing on what's going on in transition, but in reality, it's at the bottom of the arc where we want to flatten things out. So focusing how we strike through impact will tweak what we see in transition, especially with a golf swing as good as yours. So just to start, I'll run this back. Good takeaway, wide, club still looking. A touch shut, but square to the arc. Now in through here, what we're looking for is, in terms of how we load our wrists, I'd like to see you starting to plane the wrists and the shaft out at this point in the golf swing. It gets a touch steep here. Ideally, this line on your shaft would be pointing at the golf ball, and how we would do that is basically how we load the rib cage, the upper spine, and then the wrists for more leverage. So I'll talk more about that on the second part of the video. Keep rolling it up. So it's a touch steep there. It's okay though. It's pretty. It's really pretty. And then coming down, you notice that the shaft plane's much taller than it was at setup. So that would be something we would see um, in someone who's trying to hit a higher trajectory, um, more of a Nicholas Watson type of look versus a Trevino type of look. So I want to walk through Alex here. You can kind of see how his right wrist and left wrist are loading here. So he's got this more looking at the baseline. But just notice this right wrist is loaded and this left wrist is flattened out. So that's part of what I'm going to be talking about in the second part, of how you load your wrists and then unload the wrist through the strike, or don't unload the wrists and hit it lower. Then how he attacks the ball. Just notice how loaded this right wrist still is. He hasn't fully released the golf club yet. And right here is the key. Pushing down, being more turned into this left hip versus sliding. And then he's able to flatten the shaft plane right there. So it has more of this look around the corner. He's also using the ground here, or hitting the ground differently. You're on a mat. So that look through impact. Where your right wrist gets a little thrown underneath here. It doesn't stay on top of the shaft and push the shaft down. So notice your arms and shaft are in alignment here, because that right wrist is being dumped and released, which is fine if I want to hit it up in the air. But I'd love to get you compressing it differently, because what it's going to do is loading the wrists better in the backswing and then delivering the wrists into impact differently. It's going to put your body in a much different position as well, without you having to work on your body movements. It'll just be in reaction to what you're doing to your swing arc. So that right wrist is fully thrown underneath there. So it's kind of scooped up in the air. So now let's look at this down or face on. Great takeaway. Good at the top. And so when we do those stretches like the right rib and the left leg and we pull over, we're trying to create leverage in the ribs and create leverage in the right side of the body so that you can attack the ball differently. So notice here, Mac O'Grady, everything's set up to attack in this direction. Now watch this first move down. You can kind of see how the wrists are loaded here too. Left wrist is flat, right wrist is loaded. He's attacking down after this thing. He's trying to get this thing, this golf club, going into the ground. So his right shoulder, right hip, still higher, still higher, still higher. And look at the wrists. But it's because his body's moving in this direction and he's got pressure on the shaft that creates those wrist angles. He's not trying to lag it with a sloppy body. It's a byproduct of everything that he's doing that creates those angles. That right wrist is loaded, loaded, loaded. How he's leveled out. That right wrist is still loaded. Now it'll start to unload a little bit. But notice, because he attacked in this direction, the shaft is this way at impact. So for you, things are pretty level here. There's a little bit, obviously you're a good player, there's a little bit of this. But things get pretty level pretty quick. Where Mac was still attacking down when his left arm was parallel to the ground. Notice how much he's still angled in this direction because of how he's attacking the golf ball, where you have already leveled out, which is fine, but that's just going to get you more ascending this way. So notice as you come in, you're leveled out, body's going this way, and then the wrist, because the body's kicking up, left shoulder's going this way, the wrist angles will start to dump out this way. So you get that very almost just high trajectory look at impact, where Mac's more down into the ground, not releasing the right wrist, holding it, holding it, holding it, holding it, holding it, attacking it, attacking it, attacking it. Bang. So he's hitting this way. And then he'll start to tip back and move underneath it through. But notice the wrists, the butt of the club, and the club head all moving together. Nothing got released underneath. So he has more pressure on the shaft hitting into the ground. Obviously you're hitting off a mat, but everything's moving together here. Club, body, arms. And then the wrists will start to fold and the elbows will fold on the eye line. So the second part I'll go into more detail in terms of what to feel, how to feel it, some ways to feel some things, but we're not going to fix this, technically. This is going to be, okay, we got to hit some different golf shots. And then master, the control of trajectory and the control of the hands and arms and wrists and club head to different trajectories, and then you'll see, wait a second here, my body looks totally differently when I'm striking down and through it, more of a Trevino wedge pattern. And then the stuff you're already doing is great, with the longer clubs and trying to hit the higher trajectories. So look forward to the second part.